Hey everybody, it's Mark from the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast. We come to you live on Twitch every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time, bringing you all your DFFOO news and talk. Well, today is my Ultimate Sphere Guide, the #1 most requested issue in question in all of DFFOO right now. Whom should I use my spheres on? What spheres should I use? What spheres does Sid Reigns need? What spheres does Aphmau need? Why am I losing? It must be because I don't have the right spheres. Well, we're going to talk about all that today and give you some practical tips about how to use your spheres. First, like, sub, ring that bell for notification. You can find all the links to our social media and all of our friends in the links below. Join our Discord. A lot of great people. A lot of opportunities to ask questions and to learn and to get better at the game. So why has this Sphere-mageddon just grasped the DFFOO community? Well, you see our great friends at the Tonberry Troupe, tonberrytroupe.com. They give those wonderful infographics, a lot of other helpful tips and tricks in the game. They have stopped doing sphere recommendations for every single character. Previously, on an infographic page, you go to the page, you see I have the Tonberry Troupe page, tonberrytroupe.com right up here. There we go. Go to the page, you see the sphere recommendations. They stopped doing that. Why? Because spheres really don't matter. If you take away one thing from this video, stop freaking out. Spheres don't matter. All the tests we've run, all the runs we've tried, it's very rare, even if you fully sphere with non-refined spheres, with actual spheres, best possible spheres, you're likely not even taking off one turn in your run. That's how little impact spheres do. Yes, there are some exceptions to that, most notably if you have the encouragement armor, we'll talk about that, and the Paladin Cecil record sphere, but you didn't get any of those, refined sphere, excuse me. If you didn't get any of those, then you don't need to worry about it until the next time Paladin Cecil's refined spheres are available, which, very truthfully, I don't know when the next time that's going to be. So for the most part, spheres are something you do just for fun. Now, I understand the confusion behind this because spheres play a prominent role in the HUD. Look at, here I have, characters. Let me go and see if I have a main party here. Here you go. Spheres take a prominent place on the character page. You have, your boards, your character boards, you have your weapons, you have all the passives, and you have a prominent section for spheres. That's even more enforced because when you fully realize an EX weapon, you get a sphere, and they're very limited resources, and so that kind of in your brain triggers that, oh, these must be super important. And let's be honest, back in the EX era, when we were able to fully realize EX weapons and get those spheres for the first time, that may have been in the dev's mind that the spheres were going to be something that was going to customize characters, that was going to kind of act as a rework for a character, and they've tried different things over the years that just really haven't taken off. Cursed artifacts, for example, maybe even bloomstones, for example. I mean, the majority of those aren't particularly useful. The other thing that I think is really, maybe it's not insidious, but I understand why it causes problems, is when you look at your spheres here, so this is Sid Reigns sphere, it's a good sphere on him, raises own attack by 2% up to 5 times, so that's up to 10%. And that seems big because very rarely in the game do you actually get numbers like this. Very rarely do you get numbers. For example, I mean, if I go to, where is it? Where's Aphmau here? Let's see if I can find Aphmau. If you go to, or any any character like that, and you try to click on something that they do, Victory Smite, it's not going to tell you those numbers. There's literally no numbers besides how many. deals 20% of, HP damage. That's fine, but it's not telling you, it gives you those buffs, but it's not telling you what those buffs actually do. If you go in the game and you actually play, it doesn't tell you the percent of the buffs, and so you might be looking, wow, 10%, that's a big thing. So let's look at Sid Raines for example. Sid Raines, again, I'm not spending hours on this, right? This is kind of ridiculous stuff. So Sid Raines has around 290% attack up to himself with all of his buffs in launch, everything else. I think it equals about 290. I could be wrong, but let's just use that number for example. If I bring Aphmau and have all her buffs on Sid Raines, that's another 110% attack up. And if I have Yuna on top of that, that's another 105% attack up. So we're just dealing with attack right now, okay? Not any of the other modifiers, which makes it even more complicated. But let's just look at regular attack. So all of that said, Sid Raines is going to have about 505 because it's additive. It's not, 10% times 10% times. So it takes your base attack and it adds up all those multipliers and then times it, right? So 505% of Sid Raines' base attack. His base attack right now is 3988. I do have perfect arts on him. Now it's going to get a little bit more because that does not include his 15% up from his C50 there. But let's just take the numbers as they are. 505% of 3988. It's around 20,139. All right. Let's add 10% to that. And again, these are the best spheres. Well, that bumps it up to 20,539. So about 400 points of attack when you're talking 20,000 and actually probably much more. And then you have to put it into the damage equation. Then you get your damage up, your brave damage up. Again, that's not talking about his armor and the brave damage up and the HP damage up and all those other modifiers. Then dealing with the enemy defense, all the enemy brave reductions. At the end of the day, the number even that I'm talking about right here is very, very minimal. It really doesn't make a huge impact. It doesn't hurt. It's just a little bit extra. And there are big math brains there. I'm not a big math person who can dig into actually fill out the equations. If you want to run those numbers and do a 90-page Reddit post about it, great. Good on you. You'll find out what we've been talking about this entire time. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. You won't have a huge impact if you don't sphere your characters. The other issue that we have about making sphere recommendations is everyone's spheres are very, very different because everyone's played at a different part of the game. So you have different refined spheres. Some of you have refined a lot. Some of you haven't. Some of you have fully realized a lot of EXs like myself. Some of you haven't. So trying to make a sphere recommendation on a character is very, very difficult because we have no idea what spheres you have. So this is really one thing that you really just need general guidelines. And once you get the general guidelines down, it really will make your life much easier. It's going to be hard to say, who should I put on Sid Raines? Well, Sid Raines' sphere is probably a good guess. That's not always the case for every character, but generally speaking, their own sphere generally is kind of built for them. Beyond that, you put a couple refined spheres on somebody, it's not going to be that bad. I only use actual spheres, generally speaking, for favorites, unless it's a character like Sid Raines, where not a lot of other people are going to take good use of his sphere like he is. Now, Tonberry Troupe has a whole section now called the Sphere Hub. If you go on their homepage, TonberryTroupe.com, you can click on spheres, and they're going to walk you through the 5 types of spheres, A, B, C, D, and give you some guidance on kind of the spheres that you should be looking for, spheres that you should be thinking about refining when they come. But let's just kind of walk through some of the basics. Ideally, your spheres should be on attacking units, and they should buff attack damage, the type damage, either physical or magic, ranged, melee, physical damage, range, etc., or brave damage up. So let's take Ace. Ace is coming out in GL. I got him purple. Let's just look, right? You go through your list, you press the sphere button, and you just start looking. So Garland, refined sphere. When inflicting break or attacking a target afflicted with break, that's really easy to proc. Super easy to proc because most of the time you're attacking targets that are afflicted with break. Not always, but every time you do that, it raises your own attack by 2%. Good sphere, good option. And you just kind of work down the thing. What about Cloud of Darkness? Cloud of Darkness, when inflicting a break or attacking a target inflicting break, raises own magic attack by 3% 2 times. Ace is a magic damage dealer. That works on him. That's not going to work on Zidane. That's not going to work on Aphmau. That's really going to be good on Sid Reigns. Going to be great on Ace. Anybody who's doing magic attack. Likewise, you have characters, I think, like Cyan that are physical attack. Try to see the ones. This one, sneak attack. When attacking an enemy not targeting self, raises own attack by 4%. That's a little harder to proc. So if you're running a tank on your team, that's going to be a good for your non-tanks. But that, again, that's kind of one that's a little bit harder to talk. You know, there are ones that just do single damage, that do critical damage, and you just kind of go through. Likewise, Ace, for some dumb reason, has a D-sphere. Now, Ace isn't going to be putting a lot of, well, he's not going to be putting any buffs on anybody, and you don't need to really, give him kind of the support that he needs. So you're really looking for anything that can, put that attack up. So Waka, for example, one of the worst spheres, he's not going to have 5 or more buffs unless you're putting him with Aphmau or something else. But again, I try not to do that with characters that are, if you cannot proc it on the character, if the sphere doesn't go off on the character, I would just skip it. But Zaz, for example, when dealing a critical hit, fairly common. If you attack a target that's broken, you're dealing a critical hit, raises party attack by 2%. So that's a really good option. And so that you just kind of need to go through and look. For me, if I'm talking about my physical characters, I am going to try to prioritize one attack sphere, one brave damage sphere, and then one type damage sphere, just to give it a little bit of variety. So Sid Reigns, I gave him his own sphere. That's raising his attack by up to 10% after those launches. I gave him a Cyan sphere, and that's doing attack and brave. Brave overflow, so that's a little nice. And then Gauss sphere raises brave damage. So you see, prioritizing attack and brave damage. Yes, if you want to min-max, you really want to dig down into it, depending on who you're fighting, attack versus brave damage. You can have all these conversations. They really don't matter. It's not going to make that big of a issue. So, as Tonberry Troupe says, and I agree, most spheres act as very minor improvements to characters, which makes your character feel more special for you to use. They're just jewelry. They're just something, you can think of them just like as glamours. They're not doing anything except something very, very tiny that's really hard to see on the surface. So stop freaking out about spheres. Sphere your favorites. Don't worry about it. If you mess up, who cares? You don't need to remove them. Use refined spheres only if you're worried about it. You can say, hey, is this don't come on my comments or anybody else, or jump in Discord and say, who should I put on Sid Reigns? Ask specific questions. Is this a good sphere on so-and-so? Again, most of us are going to say it really doesn't matter. But, if you say, hey, for example, is Irvine's sphere a good sphere for X-Death? We'll tell you, no, X-Death doesn't do range damage. If he did, maybe yes, but he doesn't. So that's a terrible sphere idea, and you should not do that. Happy to answer those questions. We are here for you in that. But if you just kind of come and tell me who to do, tell me who to put Sid Reigns, tell me what spheres to put on Sid Reigns, it's meaningless. We can't answer that question. We're going to be able to say, well, Sid Reigns, and then a couple others. Attack, brave damage, magic attack. Prioritize those. Go about your business, because we don't know what spheres you have. And again, stop worrying about it. It's not a huge deal. Well, friends, I hope this has been helpful to you. Spheres, again, not a big deal. Don't freak out about them. Go to the Sphere Hub if you want to learn a little bit more. If you're a big math person, start doing the equation. You're going to find out something we already know and save you a lot of time by not doing it. Really doesn't make that big of a difference. So it's just something, a little aesthetic for your characters to make you feel good in co-op. Hey, look, my character's fully sphered. How cool is that? Great. Leave it at that. Don't worry about anything else. This has been Mark from the Crystal Chronicles. Join Mino and myself on Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time at the Crystal Chronicles on Twitch, bringing you all your DFFOO news and talk. Until next time, friends, let me know what other things you want me to help bring a little calm to your life. And what other things you have questions about. We're happy to answer them in the comments. Like, sub, ring the bell for notifications, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.